33-year-old Taliria Petrone is a city councilwoman in Rio de Janeiro State and a champion of human rights. In March, a party comrade of hers, Marielle Franco, was gunned down. She had publicly called out the police for brutality and resolutely denounced the military intervention underway throughout the state.
They killed her body, but not her voice.
Taliria Petrone turns a deaf ear to the death threats to carry on the fight, now with more determination than before.
Marielle, presente! Nega, a gente não vai dar descanso, não vai fechar pra balanço, nem pensar em pisar manso nesse ovo de serpente. Nega, escuta, a gente não vai.
They sing, "Listen, we're not giving up the fight," at a vigil in memory of the municipal politician Marielle Franco, nearly a month after her murder. Councilwoman Taliria Petrone mourns her dead comrade. At the scene of the crime in Rio, she demands an investigation.
This pain will never pass. So many of us are feeling it, but we're turning it into resistance.
For Marielle, I say no to the military intervention, they chant. 1 month after the killing, all that's been revealed is that the bullets come from the police munitions.
This is a political crime designed to silence everyone Marielle stood up for. The people of the favelas, the black people, women, LGBT people. The state is behind this political crime.
Like Marielle Franco, Taliria is campaigning against racism and police brutality. And she condemns the Brazilian government's military intervention in an effort to control the tense situation in Rio de Janeiro State. In 2016, Taliria Petrone, a candidate for the left-wing PSOL, was voted into the city council of Niterói, across the bay from Rio de Janeiro. She took over as chairwoman of the Human Rights Commission and immediately began receiving threats. Since Franco's murder, she won't go any place without bodyguards. They mingle easily in the crowds.
We're not giving up. We're continuing Marielle's fight all over the world to bring democracy to those who've never had it. The people of the favelas and the dispossessed of Brazilian society.
With almost daily shootouts between the police and drug gangs, Rio de Janeiro's slums, the favelas, seem like war zones. Human rights are routinely trampled, especially since the military intervention began, as critics point out. In February, the armed forces took over responsibility for public security in Rio de Janeiro State. Now soldiers patrol even the world-famous Copacabana beach. Conditions are much the same in Niterói. The main trouble spot here is the Morro do Estado favela. Several young men have been apprehended. Tensions in the favela are running high. And the Human Rights Commission has its hands full. One mother says 2 of her sons were arrested at a political event. The military police beat them and planted narcotics on them. Even while Taliria Petrone is still addressing the city council, her coordinator Paula Mairan is filing a complaint with the local police authority on behalf of Taliria and the other victims.
We have to stop these guys. We have to guarantee that they'll never repeat what they did to you. To enter your house, to put your son in handcuffs and then beat him? To beat your other son? That's torture. To put a plastic bag over his head, he'd suffocate. They can't do that. It's a crime.
Their mother never would have dared to file a complaint on her own, but now she's glad she did. It will go straight to the Niterói City Council, even though technically it's too late. Taliria personally takes charge of especially serious cases.
First, I'd like to express my solidarity. I know you have your doubts about dealing with politicians and so on. But we're here because you want to denounce these human rights violations. And unfortunately, your family isn't the only one affected. This is systematic. They beat him with a club. His eye was completely black, and his chest and his back, everything. This is killing me. They've no right to do this to anyone, not even someone involved with a crime, because this is torture.
One of her sons was in prison for 2 years for dealing drugs. He had just been released and was hoping to start a new life. But his mother says the military police planted cocaine in his backpack so they could send him back to jail.
If I've understood you correctly, your complaint is that they pretended to have caught him red-handed. He served 2 years and 2 months. Now the police are denying him the right to come back. The gang wanted him back, but he didn't want to go. As I see it, the military police are crooked as a dog's hind leg. Today we filed the complaint. Now I'm going to make a few calls.
The next steps are to find attorneys and psychological counselling. This is no isolated case, it's a tragic routine. Taliria knows she has to demand action on it, or the matter will disappear in a drawer somewhere. Many victims don't even bother. They've lost all faith in the system and they're afraid of retaliation.
The more publicity a crime by the security forces gets, the more security for the family. And we certainly won't let them face these risks alone. We'll follow through until this has been investigated and the family is safe.
The family is very grateful for this support. Even so, they're clearing out of their home for fear of retaliation. They've already found a new apartment. Taliria Petrone hadn't realized just what she was up against until her comrade was murdered. Now 2 months have passed. The bodyguards and armoured cars have become her new normal.
Since I took office, we've seen an increase in violence from security forces. At first, they put threats on social networks with language like dirty negress and get back to the slave hut, or you deserve a 9mm to the neck, and if I see you on the street, you're in for a beating. And then they started calling the PSOL headquarters regularly, cursing me, wanting my phone number, threatening to kill me and throw bombs at me. That's even more worrying because now this state-sponsored violence is directed at a city councilwoman.
But Talíria Petrone won't be intimidated. She's taking Marielle Franco's cause to the rest of Brazil and the world. She's even talked to the European Union Parliament about the critical political situation in Brazil. For a commemoration of Marielle Franco 2 months after her death, she accepts an invitation from a student movement at a Niterói university.
Marielle wanted social equality in a profoundly unequal country. Marielle was a defender of human rights in a country that has killed more human rights activists than any other on earth. The military intervention in Rio is bolstering a model of public security which is genocide. It's time to put a reorientation of that model on the agenda. 30,000 young people are killed every year in Brazil, the majority of them black. The state is responsible for many of these murders. That's worse than a civil war. So, is the state at war with the people of Brazil?
The situation is driving a surge of support for Taliria's political direction, which has hardly been represented before in Brazilian politics.
Before Marielle was executed, there were only 2 of us in an all-white state parliament that hadn't yet completely broken away from colonial structures. Brazilian politics are very much a reflection of what colonial Brazil was. Big landowners and entrepreneurs wearing ties, the majority of them white, standing for conservative positions. It was a conservatism full of hatred.
Tem ódio nesse conservadorismo.
She sees her party comrade as a victim of this kind of hatred. She's never had any doubt. Now the investigation has expanded to include representatives of government and the military police. There's no turning back for Taliria Petrone. In October, she plans to run for the National Congress in the capital, Brasilia. She's already collected a broad voter base.
I want you to stand firm. I am. I want to see you in Brasilia.
The murder of Marielle Franco in March thrust Taliria Petrone into the political spotlight and launched her on a political career at a critical moment in Brazil. At the commemorative event in downtown Rio de Janeiro, she's quite visible.
Marielle was an affront to the old power structures, but we'll have the power to rein them in and collectivize them.
Marielle is here today and forever has become her battle cry.
We are a collective that will keep Marielle's spirit alive just by doing what we've always done, pursuing the issues that are important to the Brazilian people. And the women, blacks and slum dwellers are majorities, and the issues are more pressing than ever for Marielle's sake.
Her election to the National Congress is all but certain, and her bodyguards may well be with her for a long time yet. Taliria Petrone is both a symbol of hope and a target.